Sue Murphy, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, how are you?
Well, we're all talking about murder in West Cork, right? It's Sophie Tuscan's season on everything.
Yeah, like everywhere. This is out on Sunday on Netflix. I've seen both of them now. I actually had the Jim Sheridan one for last week, but it was really heavily embargoed, so I couldn't really talk about it. But there is all of the drama around that the family have asked for the interviews to be taken out. They thought the documentary was quite sympathetic to Ian Bailey. I think everyone knows the story of Sophie Toscan-Pontier, but I don't know if they know all of the details. You know, she was murdered in West Cork in '96. Her body was found at the bottom of the laneway outside of her house, and there's never anyone been convicted of her murder. I have to say, I think the Jim Sheridan doc is the better doc. He actually features in it, and I was really surprised when he popped up on screen, because it's not like him to do something like that. I was like, oh, and he's kind of telling the story, and I think that's actually quite good, because he's very attached to that story, and he's been embedded in it for about 20 years. And he basically is so attached with that he wants the justice for Sophie, and I think he actually did a good job. Like, that's what's really upsetting about them taking out the family interviews, because I thought he got their grief across very well, and why they want justice for her and what had happened. And it's the whole thing is such a tragic case. But the Netflix one, in comparison, there's 3 episodes in that. There's 5 in the Jim Sheridan one. It's a much zippier, like, it's very, very fast. It moves through things very, very quickly. Like, the first episode, I'd say, is probably 1 to 3 of Sheridan's. Sheridan really lays the groundwork of, the area, what her life was like, what her family was like. They kind of get through that a little bit quicker in the Netflix one. It seems a bit more dramatic than Sheridan's is. I think he's a little bit more sensitive, actually, than the Netflix one is. I did feel, after I'd seen almost 5 episodes of both, I was a bit like, this is, like, I felt uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable knowing the amount of information that I knew about that woman. And I am one of those people who loves true crime, but I think it was probably because I was watching it back to back. I just think, in terms of, like, if you were looking at them as documentaries, you'd say Sheridan's documentary is better. But
the true crime thing is really interesting, right? Like, it's grand when it's over in America and it has nothing to do with us, and it's like harlar. When it's down the road, a few fields over, essentially, and these people are living and walking amongst us, and there's really compelling content that sucks you in. And yet it's clearly, in a way, sucking us in, that's for our enjoyment and entertainment. Because that's what it is. That's what, like, we sit down on our couch to be shocked, to be horrified, but ultimately it's entertainment, and it's to do numbers, and it's for clicks, and it's for eyeballs, and it's yet the murder of a woman. And look, I mean, I think the thing about the podcast was that it was slow, and again, I don't know, like, I don't know how I can have this duplicity in my own mind where I think the podcast is okay, but I'm very, like, squeamish about sitting down and watching these, and yet I probably will, like.
Yeah. And that's what's uncomfortable about it, is like the down the road thing. Like, it's West Cork. Like, the intros into both of these are news reports of voices that you know from the radio, or Marion Finucane talking about it on Crime Line. And that just gives an extra edge to it, I think, when you're watching as an Irish audience, because this is a really remote part of Cork with a kind of an international kind of population. There's a lot of people down there from different parts of the world that are artists, producers, filmmakers, all that kind of stuff. And then a small local population. So there's something really eerie about it. And like, for her to be in that house by herself at Christmas, nobody heard anything, nobody knew what happened. It's just, I was actually quite upset by it. And any of those documentaries, like, I watch Case File and listen to Case File back to back. I've listened to 140 episodes. I've never felt that I think I know too much here. And I really felt that with this.
What do you think, Owen? You are from down the road.
I do think that the grim outcome of this is that people are going. This will create a sort of cult around West Cork a little bit, almost not just as a tourist destination, but as a place of intrigue internationally, which is kind of grim to think about. That it kind of plays into what you're saying there, that there is a sort of fascination that triggers the same part of our brain that is kind of used for positive things. And for us to have this thing happening down the road where there will be an international fascination with is something that kind of sits a little bit uneasily with
But
me.
we don't care. We don't care when it's in Mexico or Canada
it's a contradiction.
or England.
Complete contradiction, absolutely. And that's just the way it is. Like sorry to slightly change the subject here. What is with documentaries of a similar subject always coming out at once, Sue? Is there like some sort of is there some sort of embargo on certain content? Because obviously we had the fire situation a couple of years ago where you had an Amazon and Netflix. Why does this happen? Like, what's the content decision there?
I have my suspicions about what happened. I'm afraid to say that in case I get sued, but I think there might have been something in the works there at Netflix before, and then Sheridan was working on this separately, and they just, I think they both knew when they were coming out, and they were like, okay, we need to get these out of there at the same time.
Well, it happens in the film industry all the time where one studio announces that they're doing one type of blockbuster and the other studios will knock together any shite spoiler to make sure that if it's a massive success, you cash in on it and you also get the opportunity to like steal its thunder a little bit if yours gets out first. So,
but it's like, I mean,
it's kind of like not to compare, but like Finding Nemo on Shark Tale, you know.
That's actually I had never really computed that, but like I guess that kind of also plays into the grim nature of it as well. Just the how, as you're right, Sue. Like, I mean, this is just a purely, or Jerry, the purely commercial thing to get clicks, to get views, to get eyeballs on it.
Think of it like this, though. In 2002, News Talk put out a daily sports show called Off the Ball, and then within about 2.5 or 3 or 4 years, RTE suddenly decided that there was going to be a nightly sports radio show. Yeah. This is what happens in the game.
It is what happens. It's the game going to stay the game. It's like, I mean, but this doesn't seem to be like a response. It seems like simultaneous. And I'm sure that there's insider information, so they know that something's coming months and months and months in advance, and they can get ahead of it.
Well, it's camera crews down in a certain area. Somebody rings somebody, and it's like, oh, was that your guys? No, what? No, it wasn't us. Who was it? What? And then there's a rush from the executives to... Because the thing is, the audience for one is probably the same audience for the other, right? Like a lot of people are actually going to watch both.
They will, and the people, I think, will come to... What's going to happen here is that the Netflix thing is going to be the biggest one of all of the works on this subject, and then people go to the Sky one, and people go to the podcast, and people will just gorge on information. Whenever we watch something, like whenever you watch a movie, the first thing I do is maybe go onto IMDb, look at the cast members I'm not familiar with, look at the backstory that's based on a true story. People, once they get a taste of something, even if it's a multi-part series, just want more of that thing. So you're right, they will absolutely be gorging on this a little bit, but maybe it's the sort of thing, Sue, that you get your fill after a while, especially if you binge just one of them.
Yeah, like the other thing that I have a problem with this is the family are so desperate. They're desperate to find out information. You know, that's what's really upsetting about it. Like you can tell they're just going to do anything to try and get information about what happened to her. And if this is the next avenue, then they have to take it. And I actually find that really hard to watch. Her father, he can't get through the sentence of talking about her without breaking down crying. So it's quite difficult. I found it the whole thing quite difficult to watch, actually.
And the other thing is the cops, the role of the cops and all this. I hope that is, I haven't seen this yet, but I hope that like is half of the entire thing.
Yeah, it's a good bit, and they really focus in on it. Like there was not a good job done around this, you know.
No, fairly horrific blundering at various different stages, and that's why no one's ever going to feel comfortable about whatever comes out of this. Right, so let's move on. The films this week.
Yeah, so Fast and Furious 9 is out this week, just to mention it. I actually haven't seen it yet, but I plan on going to see it. But I absolutely love Fast and Furious because they're the films that you go into cinema, you have popcorn, you have a drink, and you just turn your brain off for 2 hours. And I think everyone who's involved in it knows how crap they are, and everyone who's going to see it knows how crap they are, and everyone's fine about that. And I like that about it. It doesn't take itself too seriously. But I love the whole plotline around this one is like Vin Diesel has an evil twin brother who just shows up. You're like, oh my gosh, are we going to act back to Dallas for plot lines? It's just like, it's hilarious. But anyway, on the other side, we went to see The Father last week and went to an actual cinema, which was a lovely experience. We were walking in the door, and I said to my husband, this is going to be really sad. And he went, I don't know anything about it. And I was like, well, it's a film about dementia. It's going to be really sad. And he was like, oh, we're not going to A Quiet Place. And I was like, no, that's a very different film. So The Father is about Anthony Hopkins, who's suffering late in life with dementia, and it's told from his point of view. So it's brilliant because it's him trying to piece together a day or a couple of hours or what's happening, and there's all these it's moves to different times of the day, different things that he's drinking, different things that he's wearing, different people he's talking to, doesn't understand who his daughter is. It's actually with Anthony Hopkins winning the Oscar, everyone was like, should Chadwick Boseman have won that? No, he is absolutely amazing. This is the best role he's ever played. Is it something you there's two very different films there if you want to go see them in the cinema. Fast and Furious is probably your all entertainment action film, but The Father, if you're looking for something that's a very good, it's borderline a play in a film. Anthony Hopkins is spectacular in this, and you'll come out and be like, I really don't want to get old. It's very depressing. Really hits it on the head.
Don't worry, the entire planet is on fire, and we're not going to get old. We're going to be one of those generations that doesn't make it to the. We're going to see the ends of the earth too. Don't worry. That's the cheery thing you should take away. So make sure you spend the weekend binge watching something
apocalyptic or that.
If you missed it, this week is The Staircase.
Yeah, I just thought with the true crime stuff, keeping it in that kind of vein, The Staircase was one that I've never in my life watched so much information about blood spatter. But that's what this is all about. So it's a man called Michael Peterson, whose wife was found at the bottom of the stairs dead, and he was suspected of her murder. But he said that she fell down the stairs and he had nothing to do with it. And all of the episodes of this go through. It's sort of like The Jinx. You're never quite sure where you stand with it or what his involvement is. And he's a strange individual at the best of times. So you're second guessing every time you feel, and he's a very strong family unit who are very supportive of him. And you're kind of like, did he do it all the way through it? And to be honest, what's interesting about this, I mean, obviously it's terrible. There's a woman dead. Same thing we were talking about with Sophie, but it's him. He loves having the camera around. He loves talking about poetry. And then there's this other thing where he's like, I have nothing to do with the death of my wife. It's actually fascinating, and it's a real binge watch. If you sit down, you're not going to be able to turn it off. You'll go through every single episode.
Yeah, so we did that and watched it probably around the time, so 2018, I think. I can't remember what happens. I'm on the Wikipedia page here going, oh yeah. But it's funny how the 13 episodes that we were completely consumed by is just
13, it's just so long.
No room in my brain for what happened. I couldn't tell you if he's out now or if he's in now. So anyway, don't spoil it for us.
No.
Grant, you haven't seen it, have you?
No, thank you for getting everything there. I look forward to watching all 13 episodes.
Very quickly, you want to mention Mayor of Easttown? You're finished it?
Yes, I don't know if Tommy put up my texts. I guessed the end and I ruined it for Tommy in the process. But I was absolutely delighted because I had spent ages thinking about it. I was borderline with an incident room in the house with all of the lines going to all the different people who were involved. But it got to the end and I was down on my knees in front of the telly with my arms up going, yes, I guessed the right person. So that's the way I watch TV. It's not about entertainment, it's about being right. But no, if you haven't seen it, it's really Kate Winslet and it is really, really excellent. And there was a part of me that at the start of the last episode, I was like, I'll be fine if they just do this about what happens with her and her family. She's really, really interesting and her family were amazing. But I really enjoyed it. Okay. I'm just delighted I got it right.
And Halston?
I loved Halston. If you're into these, it's a Ryan Murphy thing. So if you think Glee, just turn your brain off, everything looks pretty. That's what it is. And it's really great because of that. And the last thing I have to mention, because Owen is such a big fan, is Love Island is back on Monday at 9:00.
Nice.
Do you want to talk about your problem with Love Island?
Just checking what are the Euros fixtures on Monday night. Does anybody have them handy? Is it that's the night before England, isn't it? Whatever it is.
France, Switzerland.
Switzerland.
You can flick that over. 2-0 at half time.
No, I'm not talking about switching up. I think for the sake of humankind, France, Switzerland should be postponed. Should be moved back to the 2:00 game the next day or pushed forward to the 2:00 game that day. UEFA who've had a shocker of a tournament can finally do something right by moving a game out of the way of Love Island, because this is important, and it's finally we get our culture back, because we had a summer without Love Island last year, and I think that's the main reason why the pandemic was so tough on everyone.
I mean, we were joking about this, but like in the Off the Ball office, every single person watches this, talks about it. Like Joe Malloy went on and talked to Ivy Yates about it.
Not every single
person.
But
you're the only one,
well,
Ger.
there you go. It's good to be home wearing the pink t-shirt sometimes. That's a cultural reference. There used to be a cartoon called The Simpsons.
Angie Lee was in our Love Island group. Like, that's the extent to what we're talking about here, you know.
Right, I have finished Friday Night Lights, and we should definitely talk about that, because it's...
Oh yeah, it's one of my favourites.
It's really, really excellent. I was surprised at how good it was and how it stood up and all that kind of stuff too. So anyway, Sue, good stuff. Thanks a million.
Thanks a million.
What's out in the podcast this week?
Oh, we have, it's Andrea Gilligan, and she's going to be talking about Shawshank Redemption. So it's a film she used to watch with her dad. Her dad sadly passed away, but it was one of those ones that they used to go back to together all the time. So it's a really nice story. So we have that out, and let's go back to this week.
Okay, so the podcast called Let's Get Back To, it's available on the Go Loud player, and we also stick it up on the
OTB highlights, yeah.
There you go. OTB AM, brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. Sue is with us every Thursday to tell you what to watch for the weekend.